Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to the free IELTS class. Um, like I said, I'm not necessarily going to be teaching you IELTS because for you to be here, it means that you have your exam very soon, or you already know what IELTS is all about, and you're planning to write your exam maybe this year or next year, but you know what IELTS is. So I'm not coming here to tell you, oh, this is what IELTS is all about. So this is, and I'm not an immigration officer. I'm not an IELTS officer as well. I don't work with IELTS. I'm not an examiner, just putting it out there as a disclaimer. I just wrote my IELTS within a short period of time. I did very well. So I like to help people, because I know that IELTS, a lot of people are writing IELTS this period. If you don't know what IELTS means and you're here, I'm really sorry. I might not be able to describe IELTS to you, but let me just give a short summary because I know some people are here who don't really know what IELTS is all about. So IELTS is an English exam. It means International English Language Testing Service. So it's an English exam that if you're traveling, especially to an English speaking country like Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, sometimes I don't think Germany does not ask for it. So some of these countries will ask you for IELTS. There is IELTS, there is TOEFL, and there is um, Duolingo. Duolingo is like an internet-based one, but the most popular one is TOEFL and IELTS. So TOEFL is Test of English as a Foreign Language. So IELTS is more general. So TOEFL is mainly only for people that want to school in the US, but IELTS is accepted both in the US, UK, and Canada. That's why most people prefer to write IELTS, and I think that's why IELTS is more expensive. I think now IELTS is like 85K, 85,000 naira if you're Nigerian. And when I wrote IELTS, it was like I wrote it in 2020. I think it was like 75. Yeah, I paid 75,000. So I think it has increased by 10,000. And yeah, so far so good. So for some schools, and I want to advise also, if you're here and you're planning to school in the UK, especially UK and Canada, and you think you're like, oh, you must write IELTS, you must not write IELTS. I just want to tell you, you must not write IELTS. Now, there are so many schools, especially in the United Kingdom, that once you tell them that you studied in English, so I'm just putting this out so you don't go and waste your money to write IELTS when you don't need it. Some people will tell you that just go and write IELTS. No, ask yourself, do you really need IELTS? Especially if you're going for studies in the UK and Canada. You're going to the UK, please ask the school, send them an email, ask them, you studied in Nigeria, you've been studying in English all your life, do you really need IELTS? And tell them that your WIAC was in English, everything has been in English, do you need IELTS? Also, they can tell you, okay, once we see your WIAC, what did you score in English? They can waive IELTS for you. That is if they are asking for IELTS. Some schools, as you're filling the admission form, they'll ask you, is English your first language? Once you click yes, there's no need for proof of English language as proficiency anymore. Some of them will ask you to go to your university. So there's a letter your university will give you, proof of English language proficiency. I don't know who, I think it's like the registrar that assigns that, it's like a letter. So your school can give that to you in place of IELTS. So please don't just jump into writing IELTS. Be sure that you really need IELTS. In Canada too, many schools, once you're from Nigeria, they will waive IELTS for you. You don't need IELTS. So please be sure. Don't let people deceive you, or just because everybody's writing IELTS, you jump into writing IELTS. Now, the school I'm currently in, I wrote IELTS, right? But the school I'm currently going to now, I didn't use IELTS for it. However, when I was applying, I applied to a lot of schools and a lot of scholarships. Some of the scholarships I applied for asked for IELTS, right? Some of the schools I applied for also in Canada and in the US asked for a proof of English proficiency. But if you're looking to go to school in the UK or a particular country or school, please ask them first. Be sure that you need IELTS so you don't waste your money. But if you want to apply to a lot of schools, a lot of countries, to be on the safe side, just write it and keep. You will definitely be using it. The good thing is that I'm not regretting writing it because the money I used to write it, that one I've forgotten it because I actually got the admission, I got the scholarship. So it has covered everything I spent, even though I didn't finally use the IELTS. But I use it for other applications. I don't know if you understand. I just want to help you so you don't waste your money going and write IELTS. But if you need it, please continue watching this video. So we are going to go into the reading part. So IELTS is an English exam. It has 4 parts: the reading aspect, the writing aspect, the speaking, and the listening aspect. So I'm not necessarily going to break it down. So you can go to British Council, look at IELTS, or just browse IELTS. You see IELTS test, and a textbook I would really suggest that you use is not really, don't look at the size. It's not as big as it looks. So go download Barron's IELTS textbook. Barron's is free, it's on the internet. Maybe I'll post the link to where you can download it here. I hope I get it from somewhere. Post it so you guys can go and download it. It's free. You don't pay for it. It's just on the internet. You can browse it. Barron, Barron, Barron's IELTS textbook. Look for the revised edition. See, I know people pick up and they take textbooks and then they jump the introduction. Read the introduction section. In fact, if you read the introduction alone, just go and start practicing. The introduction breaks everything down for you, how to answer questions, everything. Don't jump the introduction. That is where you have the juice. Read the introduction. So if you're writing IELTS, I know by now you must have started studying for it. You start studying, you're working hard. Keep it up. I wish you the best. But I'm going to give you tips that will help you study faster and what will help you in the exam. I know some people here have the exams next week. Some people are writing next week. Some people have theirs in 2 weeks' time. So this will also help you in the exam or how to tackle your questions. You don't have to waste time. So we are going to start from the reading. We're looking at the reading aspect now. So in the reading, you have 3 comprehensions to read. Comprehension 1, 2, 3. All these comprehensions have their kind of question. The first comprehension, they will likely ask you, right? So it will have different paragraphs. Sometimes they would write paragraph A, B, C, D, or paragraph I, or paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They will number the paragraphs, right? And then after, please, whenever you enter the hall and it's reading, don't read everything at once. You waste your time because you go back. Don't read everything. Jump straight to the question and look at the question. So the first section from the first comprehension, the first reading you're going to read, the question is likely going to be to choose the appropriate title for each paragraph. So they will name the paragraphs A, B, C, D. They'll tell you, oh, paragraph A, choose a suitable title for it. There will be options. Okay, so this is usually how the first part of the reading is. They'll tell you for paragraph A, choose a suitable caption for it or title. Paragraph B, that's what is paragraph A talking about in a sentence or as a title. So what I will advise, don't jump right into reading the whole comprehension because that will waste your time. Go and look at what the question is asking you. They will likely title these paragraphs. Now, if they ask you to choose a heading, the first thing you do is the first paragraph. Don't assume that the first paragraph is the introductory paragraph. Sometimes the introduction, you know how you are reading an article and the first paragraph is supposed to be the introduction. Sometimes they will move the introduction to the middle. They can scatter it and just start from anywhere. Or maybe you're talking about rice and beans, right? You're writing about rice and beans. You start with, oh, rice and beans is a kind of food you eat in this country, blah, 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 blah. How to cook rice and beans. But sometimes they'll move that how to cook rice and beans as the first paragraph that you read. So don't assume that the first paragraph is introduction. Now, look out for answers like, okay, so to find the title, what's something that IELTS does, please don't ever, if you want to find the title of a paragraph, don't use the first sentence, don't. If you use the first sentence, you're going to fail it, trust me. Do not just read it because sometimes you see let's say, I want to share my screen because I want to use an example and demonstrate this. I want to use like an actual test to demonstrate what I'm saying, maybe when I get there. So I think it's better I just open it and share my screen. So come in. Let me open IELTS. So this is okay. Let me share my screen so you guys can see. This is the best for me. This is the best place you can practice your IELTS. This is not the, maybe not the best, but one of the best places. So if you can see my screen, just let me know, please. Can someone just unmute themselves and tell me you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, so you can see what I'm typing. So this is
I can see your screen.
all right, thank you. So this is where you can take your free test. This is what I use. Trust me, that Baron's textbook and this place, that's all you need. I promise you, you don't need any other. See, you don't need to go for IELTS lessons. So it's IELTS online test. You can write it down. IELTSonlinetest.com. You have real, like they give you actual IELTS tests that people have written before. So let's search. Please, I don't know who is drawing on the screen. Just let's be careful, okay? Okay. Someone is drawing on the screen, please. So let me log into my account. Okay, this is not my, I think my account is not in this system. Let's see. Mock test, let's choose any one. So let's look at reading. So this is, please, someone should stop drawing on the screen, please. Oh, I don't know who is doing that. Can you kindly stop? Just look at the whiteboard that you had activated. Just stop. So this is reading, this one, the one in green. I'm going to go into that. I'm going to show you what I mean. No thanks. I don't want to log in. Can't I do without logging in? Oh, no. Sorry for the delay. This is not my laptop, so please don't have time for this. Okay. So sorry, guys. Let me fix this and so they can grant us access. I hear people serious right now. So let's target 8.5. Okay, so we are logged in and oh, good. Okay, let's take a mock test. So let's look at reading. Let me show you guys what they mean. So now this on the left, the one I'm scrolling, are the questions. These are the answers, like where you can answer them. So this is the first. Now this is what I'm saying. I'm coming. Let me move this and minimize because I can't really see. So very good. So this on the left here, this is the first reading passage 1. So there are 3 passages. The reading test has 40 questions. This passage has question 1 to 13, as you can see here. So this is the first passage. Now look at the question. When you see this in your exam, or when you're reading or preparing for IELTS, once you see this, don't go and start reading everything. This is a long something, okay? Though you eventually come back. But the first thing is to go through the answers, the questions, question 1 to 5. What are they asking you? Now here it says, choose the correct heading for sections 1 to 5. This is usually how their first questions look like. They'll ask you to title these sections. Now they use section here. You see section 1, section 2. They want you to title these sections. Now let's going over to the questions on the right. The timing has started. So there's also time. You look at the bottom here, the time is going 60 minutes, 1 hour. So the title of this says The Dams That Changed Australia. They're asking you, section 1. For this section 1 now, section 1 is from here. Sorry, from here to here, this is section 1. You can see where section 2 starts. So this whole thing, they want you to give it a title. That's what they're asking you here. So now let me show you, if you look at the first paragraph, the first sentence says, inland Australia has had a problem with drought from the time of white settlement until today. And this is why Snowy Mountain Scheme was conceived and founded. Now, if you read this first paragraph, you will think that the title is going to be why the Snowy Mountains Scheme began. Am I right? That's the first thing that comes to your mind when you read the first part, the first sentence, but it can be deceptive. Now, one thing I want you to always do, read the first 2 sentences. Don't read the first sentence alone. Read the first 2 sentences of every paragraph. Go here, read the first 2 sentences here. And go to the last paragraph, read the first 2 sentences. This will give you an idea of what this paragraph is talking about or what this section is talking about. Now, had it been this section was only 1 paragraph, you read the first 2 sentences and the last 2 sentences. You don't have to read all these things before. If you're a very fast reader, fine and good. I'm not too fast in reading. If you're very fast in reading, oh, you can go ahead and read everything and know what it's talking about. Now, we read the first 2 sentences. It's saying inland Australia has had a problem with drought from the time of white settlement in 1788 until today. And this is why the Snowy Mountain Scheme was conceived and founded. Before the Snowy Mountain Scheme, a large proportion of snowfields on Australia's highest mountain melted into the Snowy River every year. Now look at the second one. Before Federation in 1901, Australia consisted of a group of colonies, all anxious to protect their own interests. Let's look at this one. The scheme set out to harness water for electricity. Now, from these 3 things we've read, this place said, well, it was conceived because this was happening. This place said, before this, after Federation, the states retained rights to water and thus to what might happen to the river. They did this in order to protect their rivers. And the scheme was set out to harness. So from here, we look at the question, the answers. The workers and their families, nothing talking about workers and families, nothing talking about development of inland Australia, nothing talking about the cost, nature of the scheme, house, nothing. So the answer here is why the Snowy Mountain Scheme began. Did anybody understand it?
Yes, I
No.
understand.
Exactly. You don't need to read everything. Just read the first 2 sentences of each paragraph. Trust me, if you do this, okay, let's look at section 2. Okay, let's skip it, okay? Let's go to section 3. So it will be random. Now, many new arrivals spoke only limited English and were offered English classes after work. The men needed primarily to understand safety instruction. Good. Now look at this place. The constant reference to the men who worked on the snowy, blah, 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 blah. Me, I just skimmed through the first. These people will use the first line sometimes to confuse you because they think they will know you only read it and go and conclude. Now, the constant reference to men who worked on the snowy is appropriate because few women worked on the scheme and those were employed usually held office jobs. Women, however, were active and the members of the country's Women's Association gave English lessons. Now, this place is talking about English lessons. This place is talking about many new arrivals only spoke limited English languages. Now, look at the answers. What do you think the answer here is? Anybody from I to X?
I can't really see those answers very well. I'm only seeing the what's it called? Roman figures.
Oh, so this one says using sign language, the workers and their families, development of inland Australia, the cost of learning new ways to communicate, recruiting people, social problems. Which one do you think is the answer to this section?
This one is blurred. Okay.
It's blurry. Okay, I'm so sorry. So here, the 2 things that are talking about, so here, okay, from these sentences I read, what do you think this paragraph is talking about? So let me read it again.
I
The
think
first,
recruiting
learning
people
new
for
ways
the
to
snowy
communicate.
mountain thing.
sorry, someone said something.
You should be learning new ways to communicate.
Recruiting people for
Beautiful.
the snowy
Learning new
mountain.
ways to communicate. You're seeing English language, offering English classes. You don't need to read everything to understand. It's not recruiting. There's nothing like recruiting here. You're seeing limited English, English and other languages. These are keywords here, giving English lessons. You don't need to read. We've not even read this part though. We've not read this part, but we already know that this is, okay, let's look at the last paragraph, section 5. The scheme is unlikely to be repeated. The expense of putting the power stations underground would now be prohibitive, and our current information about ecology would require a different approach to the treatment of the rivers. Other hydroelectric schemes like this preceded the Snowy Mountain scheme, and others have followed. Let's go here. As well as being a great engineering feat, the scheme is a monument to the people from around the world who dare to change their lives. Let's stop here and look at the answers. Nothing like sign language, nothing like workers and their family, nothing like development here, nothing like costs, nothing like, okay, housing. They didn't talk about housing. We've already heard of communication. There's nothing like recruiting people here, nothing like the social workers in this area. So here he's talking about the unique nature. Remember here it says, this scheme is a monument to the people. Some are living and working in Australia. Many have retired there. It's actually a unique scheme. So let's look at section 2. I think we skipped it. Maybe when we are done with this, we'll skip to the next one. The Snowy Mountain scheme was to alter the face of Australia forever. One important change was the recruitment of people from outside Australia to work on the scheme. In 1949, while the world was still recovering from the effects of World War II, the Australian government needed immense number of people. Let's go to second paragraph. They came from 30 different countries, from Italy, blah, blah, blah. These European workers left countries which had fought against each other. Now, what do you think it's talking about here?
Recruiting people for
Recruiting
the
people for the Snowy Mountain
Beautiful.
scheme.
So this is how you make it easy for yourself. So imagine that you've gone to read this whole passage and you now come here. Do you know that you're going to go back to start looking at it again? You will. Definitely. If you read all these things at once, okay, you've read the whole section. Definitely you go back because you won't remember what you read in section 1. So to save yourself that time, look at the time at the bottom of my screen here. 50 minutes. Imagine you've read this and then you go back and start reading again. You don't have time. One thing with IELTS, you might be intelligent though, but time is of the essence. Time is of the essence. Let me admit these people. Okay, so let's go to next. So this is the second paragraph, paragraph 2. Now, let me talk about tips from this paragraph 1. The next thing is to use clues and keywords. I talked about keywords. Look for keywords. Most of those keywords, they write it in capital letters. You can't miss it. You see things like names, dates, like 19 this, 1990 this, names of people. These things that are written in capital letters, King George II. In fact, just keep your pencil. Once you see anything that looks like a keyword, underline it. Another very important thing. Each paragraph, as you identify those paragraphs, right? We said that in paragraph 2 was talking about recruitment or whatever. As you are reading that paragraph 2, use your pencil and write recruitment beside that section 2. Write it under. However, just make sure you write recruitment because you're going to go to another part of the question that might take you back. So, okay, in this section, I think it's here. For instance, now, not even here, I think it's in the next section. Okay, so here they're also asking you to give these places the appropriate, the appropriate headings or headlines. Okay, now look at this place. So from question 14 to 19, give them heading, or they will give you heading, the history of the development of geothermal power. Which paragraph is talking about it? You choose. Is it paragraph A, B, C, D? Use the same technique that we used before. Now, why I said you should, so for instance, now paragraph A, geothermal power refers to the generation of electrical power by making use of heat sources found below the earth. As is well known, As is well known, if a hole were to be drilled deep into the earth, extremely hot molten rock would be encountered. Let's read the last. The problem is such depths are too difficult. Now, I said if a section is just one paragraph, read the first two sentences and the last sentence or last two sentences. Now, the problem is such depths are too difficult to access. Drilling down some 30 or more kilometers is simply too costly with today's technology. Now, they're asking you, this section A, let's just use this only one as an example here. Let's see. The country's history, it might not even be there anyway. The country's history of development of geopower, one country is of this, a comparison between how geothermal power can produce electricity. So this is it.
Bennett.
This is A. Please mute yourself. So this section A is how geothermal power can produce electricity. This is A. If you read it well, geothermal power
In a
refers to
meeting.
Please mute yourself, the person saying in a meeting. Now, why I said, so let me put this out there. This meeting is going to end in the next 7 minutes, but if it ends, please just use the link and come back again. Michael, please mute yourself. Just use the link and come back again, because this Zoom is just 30 minutes. We'll continue from there. I didn't want this to take too much time, but I think I'm going to speed up because I'm not teaching you IELTS, I'm just giving you tips. Now, why I said, once you identify the title of a paragraph, please write it beside it. For instance, now, let's see section, let's see this place, okay? Which one should we take? Okay, let's see this H. Let's see this H. Although it has been considered a resource-poor nation, Japan, which is thought to have 10% of the world's geothermal resources, may very well have considerable advantages for tapping into. So this is talking about how Japan has used their whatever. Now there are some 17 plants in operation. See what you do when you're reading. Use your pencil. Now there are some 17 plants. These are keywords, 17 plants. You underline these 17 plants. See something like Japan. You underline this Japan with your pencil. Which country, which are responsible for a total output of, underline it, 53,000 kilowatts. This is a keyword, underline it. This figure, though impressive, accounts for a mere 0.4% of Japan's, you underline. In fact, every number you see, every title you see, underline it. Now let's look for this thing. The history of development, I'm on the right now. The history of development of geothermal power, no. One country's use of geothermal power, this is H. It's talking about Japan. One country's use of geothermal power. This is just talking about this thing we just read now. So now after writing this, you now come here under this H or beside this H, use your pencil and write Japan's use of power. Do you understand? So that, see why I said you should do that. Once you write it, do that for all the sections as you answer. Now you go here. We are in question 20. Assess, because here now they're asking you, do the following statements agree with the writer's claim in reading passage 2? Now they're asking you, assessing geothermal, okay, let's use that Japan's own. I think they mentioned it somewhere. Very good. So question 25 says, Japan is capable of generating 1/4 of its energy needs using geothermal energy through false or not giving. Remember when I told you to underline 0.4%? Accounts for a mere 0.4% of Japan's total energy generation. So is this question true, false, or not given?
It's false.
Beautiful. It's false. It's saying Japan is capable of generating 1/4. It's a lie. They said here that Japan is capable of generating 0.4%, so it's false. Had it been they didn't mention anything about Japan's use of electricity, it would have been not given. So false and not given can be confusing. But if that sentence is not assumed, please just say not given. So that is another tip for that. I just hope you understand. This is why I said, so now that they say Japan is capable of, because you've written the title of this page, Japan's use of power, you don't need to go and start from the beginning to start looking for where they say Japan, Japan, Japan. You already know that, okay, this is where you're going to find your answer. You just need to read this small portion to find the answer to this. So at the end of the day, I don't think I've ever read like a full, sometimes you might even finish doing this thing, you might not read some parts because they are not necessary, if that makes sense. So that is how you do it for all of them. This one, whatever it's talking about, you write the title beside it. Okay, let me admit some people. You write the title beside it. You continue like that. It will help you answer these questions effectively. Let's move to the next section. This, read passage 3. This one is question 27 to 40. The same thing here. And now, very good. Now look at this form of question on the right. This one is telling you to fill in all these spaces. Again, we are not going to read this thing. Now, let's go to the question. In the UK, every 5 years, please, if you check your mic, mute yourself. In the UK, every 5 years, the research assessment, RAE. Now, what these people do here is that they don't use the exact words that they use here, but it's the same meaning. Now, remember that they cannot start from the middle. They are definitely going to start. So these answers are going to be going like this. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 is going to go from up to down. They don't go from down to up. That is, you cannot find the answer of number 33. This 33 now, you cannot find the answer here. It's not possible. The answer you will find in this first paragraph should be answer 27 and 28. So as you go down these questions, you are going down like this. Does someone understand what I just said?
Definitely, definitely.
Perfectly.
Yes, so you're not going to find the answer to 34 in the first paragraph. No. It's going to, so because 34 is the last, it's going to be around whether middle or towards the end. So that is it. Now let's see. Let's use an example. In the UK, every 5 years, the research assessment exercise inspects research institution to determine the rate of this. Okay, now let's look at the first sentence here. The research this, okay, the government in UK was concerned about the efficiency of research institutions and set up RAE to consider what was being done in each university. Now, if you look at this, it's talking about in the UK every 5 years. Okay, now, the goal of this regular 5-yearly checkup, and again, this is a keyword, 5-yearly is a keyword. RA is also a keyword, but as you can see, it's everywhere. This 5-yearly checkup of the university sector is easy to understand, to increase. So actually what it is talking about here is to check how research is going on in universities. The answer here is going to be research. I think it should be research. Determine the rate of research. There should be a full stop here. This tends to cause dash in academic institutions. Okay, let's see. Okay, so academic institutions are already preparing for RAE with some anxiety for the financial consequences. Now, see financial consequences here. On the right, I just highlighted it, financial consequences. This one, you also see financial consequences. So you know that this answer is around here. So this tends to cause, I think it's anxiety. We are using anxiety